Hello, this is Blue Star, defender of Equestria, and this is my afterthought review of The Bad Batch. It's one final season of Clone Wars! Yay! Yes, I just love Clone Wars. I'm glad that they're gonna have basically one final season, and I'm gonna assume the purpose of this season is to basically wrap up the show the way they wanted to wrap it up, which is kind of what happened with Star Wars Rebels. Instead of just slowly watching the show go downhill, we're just gonna end it right now, but we're gonna end it our way, which I'm gonna assume did not happen with Clone Wars, because it kind of just got stopped and canceled halfway through the final season. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, may do this slightly differently, where I'm going to start off with just what do I think about this episode, and then I'm going to go into a weapons-free spoiler section. So at that point, if you don't want spoilers, you may want to skip that part. But let's just start off with my review of this episode. I think this episode was pretty good. It's definitely the beginning of something bigger. This is not just simply a self-contained episode. This is definitely the beginning of a larger arcing story, which in some ways kind of makes sense. Overall, it was interesting. We got to see some interesting new characters, surprising characters, but it definitely had, I would say, a different approach and a different tone to previous Clone Wars episodes, which perhaps is what was necessary, and definitely given the circumstances of the story, probably also was a necessary move. So overall, I really liked it. I thought it was good. I liked it, and it was some interesting stuff that will be interesting in the future. Yeah, I must admit, I like and I dislike the Bad Batch, the group themselves. I mean, parts of me kind of like them because they're kind of like the Spec Ops team, and I do like how Tech is not the kind of guy that you would look at and think of being like a big tough soldier, which I appreciate. It is kind of a myth that, oh, all soldiers are big, huge, tough guys and roar. That's totally not the case. There's people of every size and shape in the military, so I appreciate a guy like Tech. And the other thing I like is that he's not like totally defenseless. He's not just knows how to operate a computer. No, he does know how to shoot and stuff. So in some ways, he appears to be just as good behind a blaster as he does behind a console. So I think that's cool. So, yo, Wrecker, I dislike him. He's kind of cool, but he's also kind of irritating and annoying, which I guess you could argue is kind of the trait of most of these characters, which I think was the point. They're a bad batch. They're not like all the other clones. They're not all disciplined and all that. They're kind of a little bit more rogue and like kind of stuff. So that kind of makes sense, but it does make it kind of irritating. Like, Wrecker is like, it's funny and annoying at the same time. Oh man, is it over already? Oh, it's like he's totally is like, oh man, I wanted to shoot some more droids. Oh. And definitely with that fight in the middle of the episode, you know, Hunter's like, come on everyone, we're on the same side, remember? You know, they take that military rivalry. It's like, oh, we don't normally work with regs, you know, a little bit too far, and it gets down to where it's actually, you know, leading to infighting. Honestly, could happen sometime, but generally, yeah, it's all more in a, haha, my unit's better than your unit. But they take it to the point where they actually are almost in danger of actually having physical fighting going on, and that's not good. Still, I liked this. It was certainly an interesting change of tactics and pace where, oh, we're not gonna like take a cover position or snipe from distance. We're just gonna charge right at them and just shoot like crazy. I thought that was an interesting tactic of using like the armored door as like a piece of cover, but at the same time, my instincts are telling me that may not necessarily work out so well, because yeah, the very holes that they're shooting out of could be used to shoot them. Yeah, I think that that's the overall thing with this episode that I find is like, you know, they're very lucky that this is a story and not real combat, because there's no way that they were gonna, you know, do all this basically rushing through the front door and not have someone get shot, especially down a narrow corridor. In some ways, the biggest problem I have is that, yeah, this almost felt too easy for these guys. They literally fight off like 30 super battle droids, and from like 10 feet away, and nobody got hit. It feels a little unbelievable they could fight this many droids, especially in that tiny little narrow corridor, and not have someone get hit. I thought this was an interesting story, and they're setting up for something pretty cool. So now I'm going to go weapons free into the spoiler free fire zone. So if you don't want to know what happens at the end of this episode, don't watch the rest of this video. So Echo alive? Ooh! I honestly don't remember how Echo was killed in the Citadel, but I'm pretty sure that whatever happened, it was probably a little bit unbelievable that he somehow survived. But whoa, that's actually pretty remarkable. It's like, oh, he survived. Now he's basically giving aid to the Separatists. So, oh dear. That could lead to an interesting problem. obviously one of two things have happened. Either he's been like brainwashed or drugged and is helping them unwittingly, or he's genuinely gone over to the Separatist side. Probably the former. Would be an interesting problem of, what if Echo has actually betrayed them? What would Rex do then? Would Rex be able and willing to pull that trigger and kill one of his own friends? Being the, I would say, classic soldier that he is, I would say probably yes, but he definitely won't be too happy about it. So, ooh, they've set up something kind of interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens next with this. So, yo! So overall with this episode, I liked it. I think it's pretty good. Although I kind of liked the more character stuff that I think they tried to get into towards the end of Clone Wars. I think Clone Wars was always at its best when it was just about the story of the Clone Wars. When it was just these war stories. We have to go on this mission. We have to do this. Oh no, my gosh, we have to go find this or we're all gonna die. I think that was when Clone Wars was really at its best, and I'm glad to say that I think that they're going to continue to do that. Because, yeah, all the other characters, like the Jedi characters, we basically know what's going to happen to them and what their stories are. I think the stories of these clones and all those other characters, those are the ones that are the more interesting ones, and those are the ones that need wrapping up. That's ultimately what this season will be about. Just like the final season of Rebels was about wrapping up all those characters, what happens to them, etc., etc., etc. What's going to happen to the clones? How are we going to resolve this? How are we going to basically, end Clone Wars in a way that feels satisfying, in a way that just doesn't feel like, okay, we stopped halfway through the middle? And I think that they're going to succeed, and I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next, and I definitely look forward to seeing what happens next. So, roar! So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you for commenting, liking, and subscribing, and until next time, this is Blue Star. Stay strong and pony on. Blue Star out.